In a game that had the makings of being an absolute throwaway for the Toronto Blue Jays, they complete the series sweep of the New York Mets, and they've now won 7 of their last 9 games. So the sky was falling 2 weeks ago, and now they're one of the hottest teams in the American League. So we'll break down this crazy victory and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And is it too early to say that the Jays are back? Because a couple of weeks ago, we were making videos about what do they do from here? Where do they go from here? And now they won 7 out of their last 9. They're looking like a baseball team yet again. Now, I know they're not playing against the American League East, but wins are wins, and you take them however you can, Nick.
Yeah, and we're playing against very, very good teams. Obviously, not in the AL East, but tons of teams above 500. And if you look at our record on the year against teams above 500, not in the AL East, it's something crazy, which is obviously good. But before we do get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 7,500. And let's just get into it. The Jays sweep the Mets, and the Mets are a very good team. Of course, their record, they've been dealing with some injuries. Everything's not going to plan, but coming into this series, again, Peter, we spoke on it. We'd hope for a series win, but a sweep today was going to be the hardest game. Kikuchi against Kodai Senga, who was coming off the best start of his major league career. And the Jays came in and took care of business. There were some scared parts there, almost giving up a 4-0 lead, but overall, a huge win. The Jays are back, and hopefully the Yankees lose tonight, so it'll become a game and a half back of that wild card spot. But either way, the record's starting to even out, and the schedule is going to get easier at some point, and the Jays got to keep taking care of business.
I mean, we keep saying that the schedule's going to get easier, and
Eventually it will.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it to happen because it hasn't thus far. But Yusei Kikuchi won the battle of those 2 pitchers, and he still got into some deep counts today. The pitch count was high in 89 pitches through 5 innings, if I'm not mistaken. So you'd like to see a little bit more efficiency, but he's throwing strikes and only 1 walk today, 8 strikeouts. He won the duel between him and Kodai Senga. And you know how I know this team is back, Nick? It's that RBI, 2 RBI double from Whit Merrifield, because that has been a huge problem as of late. And I think it still is, hitting with runners in scoring position. But I think that was with 2 outs, and he split the gap right center field. And that was just a huge hit that got everything started. Obviously, the lead got relinquished later on in the game, but the Jays came up with some timely hits today and some very good pitching from the back end of the bullpen as well.
Yeah, I agree. And Whit Merrifield's someone that we need to give some more credit to. One of the best trades at the deadline last year from Ross Atkins, and he has just been a consistent player. And what a game for the Jays. Let's get into the box score a little bit, and they're just doing everything right. And in a day where George Springer and Bo Bichette, your two, Bo Bichette's your best hitter of the year, and Springer's starting to heat up, go 0 for 10 combined. The Jays still managed to win. Vladdy's getting back on the board. He hit a home run, which I'll show you here shortly. Brandon Belt, and if you look at his, he says 1 for 5. He should have had 2 walks if we had automated umpires. So I just want to throw that out there, and huge shout out to him for not getting ejected in the second one, which wasn't even close. And Peter, you mentioned it to me. Varsho just looks much more comfortable at the plate, going 1 for 3. He hit another rocket for an out and had a walk. And of course, Whit Merrifield and Alejandro Kirk came in and pinch hit for Tyler Hyman later, but the team is just rolling. Brandon Belts is, about a month ago, we talked about what we're going to do with him, and now he's one of the best hitters in May. I think he had the highest on-base percentage among qualified hitters in May at 484, something crazy. He is unbelievable and has just been great for the team, and the offense is rolling, and I don't know, it doesn't seem like anyone can really stop the Jays right now, because the Mets are still loaded despite their record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Mets are a very good team, and now they're playing 500 baseball, and I'm sure those fans are not going to be happy after a series sweep
They
at
booed
home in
Lindor.
Queens. They booed them. They booed a lot of different players as well. They're not happy up there in New York, but I was actually happy that George Springer and Bo Bichette combined for an 0 for 10 today, because it's those guys that we wanted to turn the corner that went ahead and
Yep.
did that today. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., his first home run off off a pitcher in a month.
Yep.
His last home run was against Luke Raley, I believe, against the Tampa Bay Rays in that 20-1 game, but that doesn't count. It was on May 23rd, and it was against a position player who was throwing about 52 miles an hour. So obviously it counts on the stat sheet, but I'm sure Vladdy will tell you he has not been clicking at the plate, and the power hasn't been there. He hit a rocket yesterday to give them the lead. He hit that huge home run today to extend the lead to 4-0, and I'm just super happy with what I've seen out of him in the past couple of games. I'm not going to say he's all the way back, but he's having some better at bats. And shout out to John Schneider as well for sticking up for his guy yesterday, and maybe that gave him some newfound confidence as well. Because those guys, they still have confidence in him. Everyone has confidence in Vladdy, and I'm very happy to see him turn the corner. Dalton Varsho's starting to hit the ball a bit harder. With Merrifield's doing what he does, and hopefully, if the power comes around for Brandon Belt, that adds a very scary element to this lineup as well.
And this is a game where throughout our losing streak, before a week ago, before we got on this hot streak, this was a game where Jays would have just turned over and lost. Once they tied it up at 4, they would have just gave it
Right.
up. But Vladdy, absolute rocket up and in the third inning. And we'll show Brandon Belts later. I have a little section about him, but very good point. John Schneider yesterday, got fired up, got ejected, and someone, I don't know if it was on Twitter or on Reddit, said that they're calling it that Vladdy's double yesterday after John Schneider's ejection was maybe a turning point and one we'll look back on maybe in a few months. And I could see it. Vladdy was hyped when he got the hit. John Schneider stuck up for his team with some umpiring that has been nothing short of just atrocious for the past. It seems like all around Major League Baseball, but especially for the Blue Jays. And overall,
Yeah.
it was a huge win. And let's give a shout out to Kikuchi. And like you said, he wasn't perfect, but it's a number 5 starter. We don't really need him to be perfect. And I feel like throughout the whole year, he's been serviceable enough to give the Jays a chance to win. And he did that again today. 8 strikeouts, 5 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk. And that's a very, very good line. It's above average. Of course, he was 8 strikeouts, a lot of pitches, almost walked a few, but what you see out of Yusei Kikuchi, you can touch on it again briefly. In the bullpen, besides Nate Pearson, who I'll give a bit of a pass because he had it back-to-back days, shut it down. And Eric Swanson, shout out to him. He now pitched 3 out of the 4 last games.
The stuff is nasty. That's never been the problem with him. It's just about honing into the zone and really honing into his repertoire as well. But what I've seen out of Yusei Kikuchi this year, I mean, obviously he's still a number 5 starter.
Yep.
He's not going to be an ace. He's probably not going to live up to that contract that he signed. I think that ship has sailed. But when you look at him, last year he was absolutely dejected on the mound, and every time he was out there, it kind of rubbed off on the rest of the team as well. Like his mentality going out there was, man, I can't screw up. I can't make any mistakes. And you could see that's the way that the team played behind him. But this season, they've won 9 out of his 12 starts that he's made. So you could tell that the guys want him to do well. He's a great teammate. He's always happy to be there, and he's working very hard. No one is more pissed off when he pitches bad than Yusei Kikuchi himself. So I've been very impressed with the way that he's kind of kept it all together. He hasn't blown up, and he's had a couple of bad starts. He hasn't looked great by any stretch, but he's given you a chance to win, and that's all you can ask for out of him. So shout out to him. Hopefully he can keep it going forward. But I've been very impressed with the mentality that I've seen out of him this season.
Yeah, he's been great, and obviously he got signed to that 3-year, $36 million, which is a bit steep. And now, honestly, when you look at the other contracts throughout the MLB at this point with all the inflation, you can make an argument that it'll probably be a fine, definitely not a good contract, but at least it's not a disaster like Tanner Roark was and some other people. But regardless, shout out to him. And looking at the bullpen as well, Simber with a huge inning there. He got the double play, I believe. It was just a great inning out of him, and Swanson Romano did his thing. I'm gonna give a pass to Nate Pearson again. Anytime, this is the second time throughout the season that he pitched back-to-back days. He's given up runs in both. His ERA is now a great still 2.5, but maybe just continue to pitch him in between days. But overall, very, very good. And let's just give a quick shout-out to Brandon Belt. And it was a huge home run by Brandon Belt to give him the lead. Peter, I know you were at basketball when it initially happened, and I'll show it again for you. Just dead center. And this was even more impressive given the fact that he got really, screwed over by the umpire twice, should have had 2 walks. He almost got ejected the second time, got very, very close, but decided to buckle in and hit the home run after the Jays and Nate Pearson had given up 2 solo home runs. And fun fact, the Mets hit 4 solo home runs, which accounted for their 4 runs, which is weird, but I guess it's kind of what happens when Kikuchi goes to the bump. He tends to give up a lot of home runs, but Belt's been a guy who he's making the money he's worth now for the Blue Jays at $9.5 million. It's great.
Nick, I think we owe him an apology.
Yep.
I think we do. And I think the time has come. He's come around. And we were writing him off after 40 at-bats early on in the season. He looked like a little leaguer up there in the batter's box. And now he has officially turned the corner. The power's still not there. He had a couple of doubles yesterday. He had the home run today. But he's never been a pure home run hitter, an all-or-nothing type of hitter. He's a guy that's going to draw a lot of walks, that's going to make contact, and man, I've been very impressed with Brandon Belt, and he's such an even-keeled guy. He never gets rattled, and he finally showed some emotion. Like, you look at Brandon Belt and he strikes out and you think, wow, this guy just doesn't care. He just walks back to the dugout. Does he even care about baseball? Does he want to be there? But today he showed some emotion when that atrocious strike
Wasn't even
three call should
close.
have been a
Wasn't even
ball four.
close.
It was not even
The
close.
second
It
one. The
was
first one was
probably,
closer. The second one just wasn't a strike at all.
but still, they both were not even close, in my opinion.
I
And
agree.
man, you could tell that he was visibly frustrated, and he got back to the dugout. He stayed in the game. He was playing at first base today, so he had to be into the game. And man, he came up in that clutch spot, 4-4 game. Absolute missile to center field and a beautiful bat drop to boot. So shout out to Brandon Belt. And again, from Blue Jays Digest, from Nick and I am sorry, Brandon. We didn't mean it. We didn't mean it. You're a good player.
And he's probably going to help us towards these this win streak coming. Again, another shout out John Schneider today. Barked at the home plate umpire again while Brandon Belt was walking back to rid any chance of an ejection. He's showing a lot more fire, and honestly, his decisions have been getting better as well. And I think he's starting to use his head a little bit more rather than some analytics sometimes, which is a manager you might need to do. But a quick look ahead tomorrow. We play the Houston Astros, and this is a huge series. If we end up winning this series, I think we lock ourselves either a half game back or into a wild card spot. You know, it's still early in the season, but this is a series that you feel like the Blue Jays you really want to win at least, 3 out of 4. A split would be fine, but winning 3 out of 4, especially with the pitchers we have coming up, which is Alek Manoah, of course, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, Jose Barrios. And honestly, if we win tomorrow, Manoah's the worst out of those 4 starters throughout the year, but it's all lined up perfectly, which makes this win by Kikuchi much more important. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we get into the end of the video?
Manoah's got to find a way.
Yeah, tomorrow could be a statement start for him.
Swanson, Romano, and probably Nate Pearson unavailable for tomorrow's game. So he cannot go 4 innings and then turn it over to the bullpen.
Romano might be because he was off yesterday. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
but
tight,
still,
though.
he pitched 2 out of 3.
Yep.
Pitched 2 out of 3 days, and I wouldn't push it. I wouldn't push
Swanson
it.
and Pearson definitely done.
Right, Swanson, Pearson, and probably Romano unavailable. Yep. So Manoah's got to find a way to get through at least 6 innings tomorrow, because if he goes 4 innings, turns it over to the bullpen, they're in a really rough spot for the other 3 games of that series. Now, I know they're at home. I know they're playing against Astros team that's maybe not as good as in years past, but they're still a pretty damn good baseball team. So, you got to find a way to get through a ton of innings tomorrow with Alek Manoah. And then give your bullpen a chance. Give your guys a chance. I want to see him go out there and improve his command, pitch by pitch, and just work through it. He's going to get there.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a good time to shout out Trevor Richards as well. He's had a phenomenal season. I haven't really got to mention him as much. Right. And he's going to be huge this upcoming series. But that'll wrap up the video. A very exciting series starts tomorrow. And hopefully the Jays can maybe even win the series and just get back into a wildcard spot. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you then.